Hey, welcome to my Just Figuring It Out playlist, where I basically talk about everything my husband and I, as United States retirees, are figuring out how to live permanently in the Philippines. Now, I had mentioned in my last video back in 2020, there was really no video about monthly expenses that's needed so that you can live comfortably in the Philippines. My last video did talk about very specific things in Filipino pesos and in US dollars of how much it cost for certain, let's say, utilities. Did not address rent. This video is going to talk about rent, but specific things like the phone, water, stuff like that. You at least get an idea. Watch that video if you want to hear specifically how much we pay every month. The only thing that was arranged was electricity. And as I mentioned, it depends if I'm in charge of electricity or if it's my husband. Watch that video. That'll give you an idea what it's like in this house. It's like going back and forth if the aircon is on or not. But at least you get a range of how much you're going to spend. This video is slightly different. You're really not going to get a specific amount. I will use an amount. I will say, let's say you're going to get $1,000 US a month. And the only reason I just grabbed $1,000 USD is because it's just easy to figure out. It's just easy to figure out. I'm not going to use what we actually bring home, but at least it gives you a good way to start calculating what I mean. So here's the procedure, okay? I believe in number one, paying your future self first. So if you are not retired yet, pay your future self first. I know I have said this before. And number two, live by percentages. Now that I don't think I've mentioned. So this video is going to talk about living by percentages. I live by percentages. So back when I was teaching, before I ever saw my paycheck, money was taken out of my paycheck and went immediately into my retirement fund. And I am retired and I have not touched my retirement fund. It is still growing because I don't need it, because my husband and I can actually live comfortably in the Philippines with my pension. One pension. Now, the other part of the equation was living by percentages. And that might be new for some people. And I thought, you know what? In my mind, I'm thinking, this is common sense. But then it took me some time thinking, maybe it's not common sense. You know how many friends that I know were living beyond their means and didn't necessarily plan their finances in a way where they could live comfortably, because they were always worried every month, can I pay this bill or not? For example, like the electricity bill. For me, it's $52 a month. If my husband's in charge, it's like $175 plus a month. That's a huge range. But if I use my strategy of living by percentages, I can still meet that range. I still have a cushion so that we can pay any unexpected expenditures that might be an increase because the rate increased, or because my husband wanted more aircon one month or not, whatever. You're ready for the unexpected, because most of what I plan for is not just to hit the exact mark of how much that bill is going to be, but at least that amount plus a little extra, just in case. So I want to start off by saying, I am not a financial expert. I am not some wizard that could figure it out, what to do to make the magic happen. That's not me. It's never been me. If you talk about investments, I will look at you like a deer in the headlights. I really don't know what you're talking about, even though I have investments. I just try to pay attention and based on what history indicates, what should I do next? So I try to do the research the best I can, but I am definitely not an expert. However, I do believe in living within your means. And if you are going to live abroad, you really do have to live within your means to feel comfortable and not have the added stress of what do you have to deal with financially. there's already a lot of other stressors when it comes to living abroad, and making sure you're in compliance with the government, making sure you're in compliance with the laws that you really might not know 100% or at all. Finances should not be one of your worries. So if you are planning to move to the Philippines and you want to see if your monthly income is enough, this is one way for you to figure it out. Because I've watched other videos and I don't find them helpful. I'm just going to be honest. I don't find them helpful. Especially when I hear people say, well, is $1,500 enough? Is $2,000? $3,000? It depends upon you. It depends upon you. And that's honestly the best answer. But for a person who needs hard numbers, that's not a good enough answer. So my strategy of living by percentages will give you those hard numbers for you to decide. Either you're going to be able to live off of that pension without having to work, or you're going to have to supplement it with something else. Okay? Again, not a financial advisor. Please keep that in mind. I don't know how many times I have to say that, but not an expert on anything I post on this YouTube channel. Like, not at all. I'm just giving you a little glimpse into my life. That's all I'm doing. That's all I'm doing. Anyway, so let's just say I'm going to pull a number out just because it's going to be easy. And then I will refer to it throughout this video. So let's just say it's $1,000 US a month that you receive for your pension. That is not how much my husband and I live by, but it is something that is going to be easy for you to calculate if you're living by percentages. Okay? So let's get started. Transportation. You know I don't have a car. So I rely on other people to take me places if it's not for me walking around everywhere or me taking my bike. Okay? With that said, I earmark 3% of my monthly pension to go towards transportation. That would pay for the trikes. And watch the last video if you want to hear about specific costs of how much it costs for a trike or a bus every month. Sometimes it's zero. Sometimes there's an actual cost. But trikes, bus, Grab, it just depends upon the location, the type of transportation that's available, but I earmark 3% of my monthly pension towards transportation. Now, if we get a car, that's going to have to change. I'm going to have to recalculate. But for right now, it fits perfectly. So if I do have a balance zero in that category of transportation, I can put that into savings. Or like when I lived in the United States, I could put that money into another savings account that would go towards my future car or my future motorbike, whatever it might be. So if I don't have the transportation right now that I'm paying for, because I don't have a car, I don't have the maintenance of a car, I don't have to buy fuel for a car, and if I don't use transportation at all, I can then just move it to a savings account for my future car. I can do that. Just FYI. That's what I would do when I worked. That's how I think now. Kinda. That's kind of how I think now. I will say 3% does not include flights. It just includes like ground transportation. I would include even maybe ferries. Once we start going, and to be honest, we have not done any use of the ferry transportation. I did go to the Batangas Pier just to kind of see what that vibe was like, but I'm thinking it will include ferries once we start traveling beyond Luzon. We'll see. But it definitely does not include flights. That's money that's going to have to be saved elsewhere. That will be tucked away. So as I said, if I don't use transportation every month with Grab, trike, or bus, then I can say, you know what, I'm going to put that money aside and put it towards my flight. to be honest, I also tutor. I have a student, I've been her tutor since 2019, and when I wanted to move to the Philippines, I kind of closed down my online tutoring business, but she is the one student that I keep. And she was my first student. She will be my last student that I actually have. And any money that I receive from her from the month goes towards my flight tickets. So I have a flight coming up soon, and it's already been paid for because of my tutoring. So there's an example of how I was able to save up for an upcoming flight, so I could go back home to go to my niece's wedding. So there you go. Transportation, 3%. Now, remember I mentioned I will refer to it to a particular income amount that my husband's not using, that my husband and I don't necessarily have, 1,000 USD. That would mean about $30 a month you would then earmark towards your transportation if you don't have a car. FYI. It's doable. It's seriously, that's doable. The next thing I want to talk about is rent. So I do refer to my notes because I want to make sure that I'm talking about the exact percentages that I've been using my entire life. The last video I did not talk about how much we spent for rent because everybody's going to be different. Your situation's different than mine. But I earmark 25% of our monthly income to pay towards rent. 25%, so whatever it might be. Since we're using 1,000 US dollars a month, that would mean $250 a month would be paying towards your rent or purchasing of your home. If you actually purchase your property and you purchased your home, whatever would go towards housing. Let's put it that way. 25% goes towards housing specifically. Now, for me, that is more than enough to not only pay for this bungalow, the rent for this bungalow, but it also provides extra for any Airbnbs. For example, my husband and I had a trip to Manila. We didn't know if there was going to be a bus back to Lipa City from Manila, so we decided, you know what, let's just stay at an Airbnb or let's stay at a hotel, and then we'll just catch the bus in the morning. We already had that money earmarked to be able to do that. So we can do that maybe, 2 or 3 times in a month. And since we've been doing this, it happened one time. We've only done it one time. So any of the extra money could be earmarked to kind of help another category where we spent over. Like sometimes the medical part, like buying medicine and stuff like that, might go above what I have for a monthly percentage. So then we just earmark it over there. We just move it over. So anyway, 25% goes towards housing. That's easy breezy. If you have 1,000 USD, that means 250. You can easily find someplace around here. What the amenities are for that home is going to be different and might not be exactly what you're used to in the United States, which is true. But if you saved up money knowing that and you're going to maybe do some modifications to that home with the approval from the landlord, then go for it. You already have the money set aside. You've already saved up for all of these extra expenditures that's not part of the monthly budget. You already put money aside for that. Then it's like no big deal. Okay. Next, utilities. I talked a lot about utilities in the last video. So just so you know, to pay for all of that stuff, 18% of our monthly income goes towards paying utilities. Now, I will say, in 2023, November, December, and the entire year of 2024, I had 2 categories. The 18% was still utilities, and I had a 5% for phone. Because remember, I talked about in my last video, we have a US number and we have a Filipino number. So our utilities for 2025 now includes our phone. So everything I talked about in the last video is now within that 18% of our monthly income. And I still have a little extra. That also includes, you know, the pest control, which is a little extra. It's not much, but I have to do extra because, as I mentioned, my husband loves aircon. So I just have a fan here. And I don't know if you can hear the dogs. So that's why this door is closed. But depending upon how much you rely on aircon determines the fluctuation of the utilities bill. I think it's reasonable to have 3,000 pesos, $52 for your utilities. I think that is reasonable. Using a little bit of aircon. If I turn on aircon for me, it might be during the hottest part of the day. Like, just if I don't have, like, I have to close this door, and if it gets too hot, like right now I'm doing this video and I'm hoping the fan is going to be enough, but if I need to turn on aircon, I can. That's why. Sometimes I might use it. It just depends. Like, it's in the 80s right now, and it's March, which I absolutely love. But anyway, I'm getting off topic. So, utilities, 18%. So if you are going with 1,000 USD monthly income, what is that? $180 possible. That's easily possible. Go back, watch my other video about what else we spend our money on that fits within the utilities category. You'll be fine. You should be fine. If not, you need to rethink how you're using your utilities, or rethink how you're using your aircon. I'm just saying. I have a husband who loves it, so if we can do it, you can do it. Next, medical care and health care. Now, I will do another video because I have 2 insurance policies. One is a United States insurance policy, and one I just recently received, which is a Filipino, not PhilHealth, insurance policy. That the annual amount from that does not come out of, I will say for the first time, does not come out of our medical health care, because my husband and I weren't sure if we were going to do it. It came out of our, we're moving to the Philippines savings account, and that is what paid for my initial 1-year Filipino insurance policy. So I'm just going to be honest, that did not come out of this monthly. What comes out of this monthly would be like any prescriptions. My husband has monthly prescriptions that he needs. If we had to go to the doctor, my husband had to see a dermatologist one time. I've had to go to the medical clinic, so did my husband. We've had virtual meetings. I think my husband had a physical. We had dental work. So all of that, I earmarked 5%. That's it. I only put 5% towards medical and health care. And the reason why is because my husband does all of his prescriptions for 3 months, and we're able to do that. Now, if it goes a little bit over, then I know I can maybe pull from another category to kind of help with that cushion, but we have been able to at least keep it at 5%. Keep in mind, the new policy that I have, the Filipino insurance policy I have, did not come out of this budget. Next year, I'll figure it out, but for right now, for 2025, no, it did not. So, in 2024, that 5% covered the out-of-pocket expenses for, I'm referring to my notes, 3 dental appointments, cleanings and adjustments, 2 virtual medical appointments, a dermatologist and a regular one, 2 in-person medical appointments, 3 lab work type of stuff, and multiple medications prescribed by the doctors, including medical prescriptions that my husband needs that he had received from his U.S. doctor that he needs refilled every 3 months, if that makes any sense. It did not include the visit to the Bureau of Immigration, no, the visit to the Bureau of Quarantine that we needed to have for the 13G visa. That medical visit was already paid through JRC. So that was earmarked through something else. Okay, so keep that in mind. Everything that we did for medical, 5%, which is if you have $1,000 monthly income, that'd be $50. I think think about how much you spend. If either you're going to have to make more money, put aside more money, or adjust your percentages, which I will admit, since we have been in the Philippines, I've adjusted our percentages every month, every January, December, January. Those are the 2 months where I start looking towards the upcoming year and figuring out, do we need to adjust the percentages because we are now living differently. Our needs have adjusted a little bit, so our percentages need to adjust a little bit. So keep that in mind. As we get older, that percentage might need to start increasing as we get older. The goal is to be as healthy as possible and make sure you're making the healthiest decisions as you can possible. So moving on, groceries and bakery. Now groceries also include cleaning supplies. I earmark 15% of our income. So if you're bringing in $1,000 USD, that would be $150. Super easy. We shop at Pure Gold, SM Hypermarket, the Marketplace, S&R. S&R is super expensive, but if you want products that are more American products, I mean, you can find them in the other places. Like SM Hypermarket would have it, the Marketplace would have it. S&R definitely has it, but you're gonna pay more. I was just talking to a neighbor, like if you love cheese, American cheese, you're gonna pay. You're seriously going to pay. It also is, I go shopping at the Palenque, the farmer's market. That's the best place to get your food, in my mind. So we eat a lot of fruits and vegetables. My husband has lost 20 to 30 pounds because number one, he can't eat like he did on an American diet. That's number one. And number two, it's because we're really eating more fruits and vegetables, and it's fresh. Because I shop at the farmer's market, FYI. So, and I know I just said that. Cleaning supplies included paper towel, any of my cleaning supplies, the stuff for the washer, all of it. All of that is part of the grocery bill. I will admit that is one area that we have not been able to stick with in the range. So to be honest, I think I need to adjust that. But because there's other categories where I can move money around, we're still within budget. Restaurant and food, I only earmark 5%, and I will be honest with you, we blow that out of the water every single time we are past that. But and it also depends on who is in. I don't eat as much as my husband. Okay, so I can take a whole chicken and get 10 meals out of that. And if my husband can 2 meals, we're done. So I don't know what to tell you. That is something where I'm still trying to figure out. But if you're bringing home $1,000, then that's $50 going out. We are not people who go out. If we do, it's like because we were in Manila, we were someplace, or we're doing Food Panda, to be honest. Like I know recently I did Food Panda, and it came to 1,300 pesos. But I mean, if I'm the only one eating the food, that takes me about a week and a half to get through the food because I tear apart the chicken, I measure all of my food, so like 100 to 123 grams of chicken. I earmark that into 4 or 5 bags. I get the fruits and vegetables from the palenque, and then since I tore off all of the chicken, I put the bones into the freezer, and I wait until I finish all the chicken, and then I turn all the bones and I get broth, and then I make a chicken soup, which makes about, I can get like 4 or 5 meals from just the soup. So that gives me close to 10 meals from one chicken. Opposed to if my husband's in charge, that's 2 meals. So I'm just saying, it depends upon how much you eat, and if you're hungry or not. But my husband has lost 20 to 30 pounds, legit, which I'm super, super proud of. But it is being away from more processed food and just, and I like Filipino food, and he's adjusting. That's my kind way of saying he is adjusting. He still has an American palate. Let's put it that way. So that is why our grocery bill and our takeout restaurant bill is typically higher than I would like it to be. If it's just me, we're within budget. If I was to restrict the amount that he's eating and actually have him follow what I do and weighing the food and making sure we're having like a realistic amount of food, then we could be within budget. But it is what it is. It is what it is. Just know that those 2 areas are the ones that we are typically not within budget with those percentages. And it just depends upon if you have an American palate or not. Like, I work at a caranderia, and I know I said that wrong. I'm still practicing. So to be able to get like a really good portion of, let's say, pancit or afritada or lanca for like 45 pesos, 25 pesos. I mean, it's perfect. I'm perfectly fine with that, with some rice at the bowl. No problem. No problem. You can do it if you're going to eat that way. But if you're not going to eat that day and you have an American palate, good luck. I'm just going to say good luck. That's all I'm going to say for that. Okay, next, entertainment. You already know that my husband and I are super boring. We really don't do a lot. But I do earmark money towards entertainment and activities. 5%. That's what we get. 5% for the month, which is, if you're bringing home $1,000, that's $50 a month to be able to do whatever. And that does pay for, helps pay for like Netflix and things like that. Did I say 5%? Yes. No, 8%. Take that back. I was going to say, hold on, that didn't sound right. 8% is earmarked for entertainment. 8%. That gives you $80 USD if you're bringing home $1,000, and that pays for all of this stuff that I basically have done. And if you have watched my channel, I'm all about free. I really am all about free. There's so many things to do that's free, and you can still enjoy living in the Philippines without having to spend a lot of money. Are there places where you're going to have to pay a fee? Yes. Are there certain resorts where you're going to have to pay like almost American prices? Yes. But if you know that, then save up for it, and that will pay for the extra because you're going to go above the budget. I've mentioned it before I even started. Save up for what you really want so you are still living within your budget. Okay, self-care. I only give myself 2%. 2% out of the month. No matter what your income, it's 2%. Here's the thing. To get a pedicure, what is that? You could get that for less than $5. Not in the United States. When I got a pedicure in the United States, and that included tip, $30. And I just got regular pedicure, not with the gel. It's crazy. Here, it just depends what you want for the service. So it could be about, I'm going to give average $5. For me to get my hair cut, about $8. So for me to get the self-care needs that I want, manicure, I don't do manicures, pedicure. If I wanted to have a facial, it depends. I don't do that often, but getting my hair cut, sure. 2% is doable. That's $20 a month. And since I'm growing my hair out long, I don't get my hair cut and sometimes I do my own bangs. You might notice that. It looks like a hot mess. It's my fault. The last thing that comes out of our budget would be miscellaneous. Now, miscellaneous is crazy. So I mentioned two categories where we are above and beyond our budget. Miscellaneous is the third. And that's just the spending. What do we want to do to make this place comfortable? I mean, once you have it, then you're done. And I think I mentioned before, my husband and I have Tagalog lessons. He has his $100 like Patreon and hobby stuff. So that money is coming out of this budget. So it is 190 USD. And that basically covers our extra. But we still go above and beyond if we're going to order anything from Lazada, or if there's something else that, let's say, breaks and we need to replace it. So to be honest, those are the three. But like I mentioned before, I always have extra in housing. I always have extra money in transportation. I always have extra money in medical. So there are certain categories where I'm not using all of the money, so I can just kind of push it aside to the areas like groceries, going out to eat, and miscellaneous. And then we're basically covered. If you want the honest truth, are we always balanced zero? No, but it is a slow bleed out of our savings account, and we kind of knew it was going to be the slow bleed out of our savings account because we're still adjusting to what is going to make us feel comfortable. And I keep a spreadsheet so I can see. So the longer we stay settled in one spot, the smaller, the least amount of money is used to make this experience more comfortable. Just FYI. Before you come, just make sure you have a really good savings to help with the transition. And not many people come with a big enough savings account. So financially you're stressed. And to me, if you're going to live in the Philippines, we came here for a reason, not to be stressed. So it took us since 2020, it took us 3 years to actually make sure we were exactly where we wanted to be so we could come to the Philippines. So FYI, that's it. I think that's everything. I'm gonna double check. So anyway, those are the percentages that I use to make sure that for each category I just talked about that we can afford. I talked about 3 categories that were typically over budget, but I know we also have a savings account and I tutor. So I tutor on the side 1 day a week. And that kind of pays, that really does pay for the extra, or it pays towards the flights so that when I do want to go home to the United States, I already have the money and everything can still stay balanced zero. Anyway, this is a super long video. I apologize if you stayed this entire time listening to me ramble on about percentages and what we pay every month. Not specifically what we pay every month, but at least giving you an idea how I earmark particular funding for certain categories. I hope it was helpful for you. And if you have any questions, just write something in the comment box. I'll be sure to respond as soon as I see it. So thank you so much for hanging out. I appreciate you really listening, especially if you're listening to this point. Shocks me. Thanks. Anyway, I'll talk to you later. Bye.